Hello, welcome to the course Immigration Counselling and Management. And this is actually going to be a 10 module journey where we'll be able to understand some basic to advanced things about immigration counseling and management. For today, which is the first module, we'll be talking about introduction to immigration counseling and global mobility. Introduction to immigration counseling and global mobility. We'll actually look at the meaning and scope of immigration counseling and management, the evolution of global migration and international mobility, the roles and responsibilities of immigration counselor, the key stakeholders in immigration processes, ethical foundation of immigration counseling, overview of study, work, trade, travel, and permanent migration pathway, and an introduction to client profiling and need assessment. These are the things we will briefly look into. Now, let us go into understanding the meaning and scope of immigration counseling and management. When we talk about immigration counseling, this is actually playing an advisory role, and this provides accurate information on policy, visa, and eligibility. It also helps clients to, it is helping clients to also understand their options, their risk, and long-term implications. And also, immigration counseling acts as a knowledgeable and ethical advisor. The counselor, immigration counselor, acts as a knowledgeable and ethical advisor. And look, coming to immigration management, this is actually administrative role. It is actually the administrative role. And when we talk about this is the systematically planning and coordination of the migration process. And it's also the preparing, reviewing, and submitting of documentation, and also ensuring compliance with um, timely timelines and also legal requirements. And we have the scope of migration counseling and management as in being a broad and multidisciplinary one covering various migration pathways such as the study, the work, travel, family, sponsorship, and permanent residency, while requiring engagement with stakeholders and also adherence to ethical and legal responsibilities. Coming to understand the evolution of global migration, it actually started from the early human migration, where there was movement for survival in terms of food, water, safety, and it is unregulated and pre-border. And it evolved from that to a formation of states and empires, and this deals with organized migration from trade, military, labor, and also a forced migration in terms of slavery and displacement. It's moved then to the colonial and post-colonial uh, era, whereby it's characterized by mass movement for plantation resources and also administration, and for the post-colonial ties to former powers. And then it moves to the industrialization era, which is characterized by rural to urban and cross-border labor migration. And this is actually basic immigration controls introduced. It has a basic immigration control which was being introduced. We also have the post World War II era, where we talk about labor shortage, encourage foreign workers, and it's actually also known for its formalized passport, visa, and border regulations. Now it's moved to the globalization, where we talk about advanced transport or communication, diverse multi-directional migration for education, work, or travel. We have the forced migration also in terms of refugee, the high asylum seekers from conflict, instability, disaster, humanitarian framework established. And We also have the contemporary migration, and for this actually deals with the flexible pattern, whether temporary or permanent movement for study, work, tourism, digital employment, and it's a circular migration, and the likes of dual citizenship. And lastly, we have the digital age and future. And for this, it's actually an online application, remote work, virtual mobility, and this also deals with climate change, demographies, um, policy shift, which increase demand for professional counseling. Let's look at the role and responsibility of an immigration counselor. The core duties are information provider. He actually provides information, that is, he delivers accurate, up to date, and country specific immigration information. He's also a client assessor where he conducts thorough client profiling to understand backgrounds and goals. Also, he is a pathway advisor, and he recommends suitable and realistic migration options in terms of study, works, and the likes. And lastly, he performs the duty of documentation guide. And under this, he performs the role of advising on required documents and reviews that are necessary for accuracy and completeness. Looking at the professional obligations, this actually includes expectation manager. He actually stands as an expectation manager, whereby he provides realistic guidance on success likelihood and also potential challenges. He also stands as the ethical guidance who upholds honesty, rejects frauds, and also ensure legal compliance. He's also a data protector. That is, he maintains strictly confidential and um, fence data and also secure handling of clients' data. And also, he performs an obligation of stakeholders liaison, and that is, he communicates professionally with embassies, institutions, and employers. And lastly, is the lifelong learner. He actually continuously updates knowledge on changing immigration policies as it happens in states or in countries. And the key stakeholders in immigration process include the client, who is the central stakeholder, the applicant or the migrant. Another is the embassies and the consulates, and these are official gatekeepers who process visa and also make final decisions. Also, we have the educational institutions and employers who provides admission letters, job offers, and also sponsorship. We also have the government agencies who create and enforce immigration laws and policy. We have the immigration agencies or firm that also provides professional advisory services, like now that we are talking about an immigration counselor, we're talking about, and also we have the international organization, which influences global migration standard and also protects migrants' rights. Looking at the next, which is the ethical foundations, these are actually known as the pillar. They are actually the pillar of trust. The ethical foundations are the pillars of trust, and they are guiding principles for professional conduct. And this includes honesty and truthfulness, avoiding of misrepresentation, that is, never falsify documents or information. Another is confidentiality, which is important. Transparency is also important, where you will be clear about fee services and also refund policies. Another is competence, that is providing advice only within the scope of knowledge and also committing to continuous learning. And lastly is the client-centered practice, which is actually very important. That is offering of unbiased advice free from discrimination. Looking at the migration pathway, the first is the study migration. And what is the purpose of study migration? It's actually the pursuing of formal education in the University College of Vocational Training, and it's actually the key requirements are the admission letter, proof of fund, language proficiency, academic records. And key features is actually it often allow limited work rights. It also can be a strategic pathway to post-study work permits, and eventually permanent residency. And the role of counselor in this is to match students with suitable courses or countries based on their academic and career goal. Moving to work migration, the purpose of work migration is actually to for employment on a temporary or long-term basis, and it requires a valid job offer, employer sponsorship, skills assessment, which is often requested, and also language proficiency. And the key features is as it's tied to labor market needs, that is shortage of occupation, and also it can be temporary or lead to permanent residency for skilled workers. And the counselor performs a role of assessing client skills and also experience against the destination country requirements. We also have the travel and permanent migration. For travel and short-term visits, it's actually for a purpose of tourism, business, family visits, and also medical treatment. And key requirements include proof of fund, return tickets, strong ties to home country, and the key features include strictly prohibits long-term work or study and does not lead directly to permanent migration. And for permanent migration, the purpose is for indefinite settlement with a right to live and work. And routes to attaining these include a skilled migration, family sponsorship, and investment or and humanitarian um, services. And we have the key features, which include it's actually highly competitive and often the culmination of long-term migration plan. Looking at introduction, the client profiling. What is client profiling? It's actually a systematic collection and analysis of client background information to create a comprehensive profile. And key data points include the personal details like age, nationality, family, and the likes, educational background, the work experience, the financial status, the language proficiency, and immigration history. And the purpose of this is actually to form the foundation for personalized and realistic migration advice. Looking at the need assessment, it's actually an exploration of the client's objective, motivation, and also expectation to complement the factual profile. And key questions to explore include what are your short-term and long-term goals in terms of education, career, and lifestyle. Also, what is your financial capacity for tuition, living expenses, and fee? Also, what is your primary motivation for migrating? And lastly, are there any personal or legal constraints to consider? And the purpose for this is to ensure the chosen migration pathway aligns with the client's aspiration and personal circumstances. We also have the profiling and assessment processes, which include a step-by-step guide. And the first one is initial consultation, building rapport, explaining the process, and also establishing trust. Another is data collection, which is the use of structured interview, questionnaire, and also request key documents. And also the next is verification and analysis, which deals with review of documents for authenticity, identifying strengths and gaps in the client profile, and the need. And the next is the need exploration, talking about the discussion of goals, motivations, and also constraints in depth. And the fifth step is to the pathway matching, which talks about the synthesizing of the profile and the need to recommend the most suitable and realistic immigration option. And the last one is ethical consideration, and this is maintaining confidentiality, obtaining informed consent, and also remaining unbiased throughout the process. In conclusion, immigration counseling is an integrated practice of advice and management. Global migration has evolved through distinct historical stages and leading to today complex system. Counselors wear many hats. They are the advisor, assessor, manager, and also the ethical guardian. And the process involves multiple stakeholders, which has been stated, and also ethics in terms of honesty, confidentiality, transparency, and the likes are the foundation of the profession. And clients can navigate study, work, travel, or permanent migration pathway. And effective guidance starts with a thorough client profile and need assessment. These are the things we've discussed. And this foundational knowledge prepares you for the practical skill that is needed in the coming modules ahead. Thank you.